Welcome to the League of Women Voters Tacoma-Pierce County Candidate Forum for Legislative District 25, Positions 1 and 2. I'm Lydia Zapeta, your moderator for this forum. I begin with a land acknowledgement. We gather today on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, and our mission is to empower informed and active participation of citizens in government. Candidate forums are one of the many ways that we do this. We invited all the candidates for positions 1 and 2. The candidates in ballot order are Position 1, David Berg, Nick Oloo, and Michael Keaton. Position 2, Jenn Marie Strickling, Ren Fanoni, and Cyndy Jacobsen. The primary is August 4th. You can register to vote or change your address at votewa.gov. That's votewa.gov by Monday, July 27th. If you're already registered, ballots will be mailed out July 14th. You must place your ballot in a post box or ballot drop box by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 4th. This forum is being recorded and will be posted on our website, lwvtpc.org. Questions have been prepared by the League of Women Voters. We invite live audience questions via text to 530-647-6482. Questions have to be directed to all the candidates, and they may be reworded or consolidated. Our timekeeper today is Terry Baker. Candidates, please stay on gallery view so that you can see the timer. When your time's up, please stop. You may finish a short sentence if the timer goes off in the middle of the sentence. Please don't talk unless it's your turn, and please mute yourself when you're not speaking. The audience is muted and can't use the chat function. A reminder that civility is expected. I ask you each to confirm that you agree to our ground rules, which among other things include addressing the issues and not making personal comments. Please confirm by giving me your thumbs up. I love seeing all those thumbs. Thank you. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. After that, the order of questions will rotate and each candidate will be asked the same question. At the end, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. The order of the 2-minute opening statements for Legislative District 25, Positions 1 and 2 is in ballot order. So we'll start with David Berg. Your 2-minute opening statement, please.
First off, thank you for having this. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to voters. It's really the fundamental part of running a campaign is being able to talk to voters, understand what their issues are, and then be able to act on those kinds of things. So I started my career as an education advocate back in 2024 when my oldest son was in kindergarten. I started with PTA advocacy, working at the local PTAs, transitioned into working for the Puyallup PTA Council, then our Region 5 PTA Council, and the state PTA. Started working on highly capable advocacy, again, beginning in Puyallup, and then transitioning into advocating statewide. Worked on that for quite a while. It took a lot of persistence to get through changes to the issues that were important to increasing opportunity for kids across the state. Programs that I worked on, policies that I worked on, legislation that I helped pass has resulted in more than 25,000 additional kids a year getting an opportunity in highly capable programs that didn't exist before the work I started to do. So I know that legislation and that the government can work. It can get things done when we work together. It's that ability to work together on issues, to stick with it, to be persistent, to listen to people, to engage in conversations, whether we agree or disagree, that is so important to getting the work done. And it's so important to why I'm running. I look forward to the opportunity to serve the constituents of the 25th district the same way that I've served them as a member of the Puyallup School Board, by listening, working together, and getting things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling, your 2-minute statement, please.
Yeah, I'm Jenn Strickling. I am just just recently, formally, your charter review commissioner, as of a couple weeks ago. I'm also a candidate for state representative in the 25th LD, in running in position two. I come from a multi-generational family in the building trades. I'm a former member of Laborers 242 and 252. I know what it means to punch a clock, work long hours, and try to earn a paycheck for your family. That's why my campaign is essentially built around three things: people, power, and paychecks. So, people, because working families deserve to be at the center of every decision being made in Olympia, and power, because our community deserves a real seat at the table when decisions about transportation, housing, and economic policies are being decided. Paychecks, because strong local jobs, apprenticeship pathways, and fair wages are how we keep and build the middle class. Um, so, so I fought to protect mobile home parks, people in mobile home parks, people that are struggling with housing, gentrification, all of the things that have come along with that. I have predatory landlords, because stability at home matters just as much as stability does at work. Let's see here. Too often, though, our current leadership isn't showing up in the ways that matter. It's when the only tool in their toolbox seems to be complaining about the majority party, and instead of delivering real results for our community. So the people in the 25th don't need more noise from the marble halls of Olympia. We need people that can actually build coalitions, work together, work across the line, work across party lines, and work with the people that actually and solve the problems in the community that we have here. So. That's what I'm bringing to the table. My ability to build coalitions, work with folks, make sure that we can get things done, and make sure that we're truly representing the folks here in the 25th. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please, your 2-minute statement.
Hi, I am Cyndy Jacobsen. I'm running for my fourth term in the 25th district. Um, I'm pretty straightforward. We have had, and this is a complaint about the majority party. We've had majority party rule for 40 years. The entire time that I have been in office, I have been able to say we've doubled our spending in the last 10 years. We're coming up on years 7 and 8 in office, and every year I'm able to say we've doubled our spending in the last 10 years, more than population growth, even if you count the influx that we've recently had, more than wage growth. We are continuing to increase our spending, and we need to have some real conversations about what we're doing to spend. And so we can't continue to do that kind of malfeasance, because what we begin to do, and we did this last time, was we raided the firefighters and police pension fund. We raided rainy day funds. We raided the public works trust account. We are just playing a shell game with money, and we need to have some difficult conversations. But it doesn't mean that we need to gut our social services. There are things that we can do. We can make sure that people aren't enrolled in Medicaid in different states. We can discuss health care that we're providing to folks that are not here legally. We can discuss that, because that's a portion of our Medicaid, a big portion of our Medicaid budget. So we need to start having the hard conversations. And I have been straightforward all the way through that that's where I stand from a budget standpoint, because people are suffering, and they write in all the time about their property taxes, and they're just concerned. And so I do think we need to push back against the spirit that we've had in Olympia for the last 40 years. So pretty straightforward. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we come to questions. Each candidate has up to 90 seconds to answer each question. Again, live audience can text questions to this number on the screen. So for the first question, we'll start with Jenn Strickling. The state of Washington has a projected budget deficit of $4.3 billion for 2027-29 biennium. Be specific about how you would raise revenues, and what are your views on the millionaire's tax? The next question will be about budget cuts. So this question, focus on revenues. Jenn Strickling, please.
Just on revenues. Got it. Okay, so I support the millionaire's tax, but I think that there needs to be some fine tuning. I don't think that we have fully can you hear me? Am I I'm hearing
Yeah.
something. Okay. I think that we need to make sure that we're not rating small businesses when we're trying to hold large corporations accountable. So I think that there is some stuff that we need to do with the millionaire's tax to make sure but I do think that it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to move forward and make sure that large corporations pay their fair share. They have been not paying their fair share for a very long time. And I think a smarter way to do this would be to look at taxing AI. I think AI has become a huge issue. They're making hand over fist and they're taking jobs away from Americans left and right. So I think that we are facing a much darker future on how we're going to capture the tax income needed to make our state work and run, because we will have less people working, less people earning a wage. So I think that we need to look at different ways where those wages and where jobs are being harmed, and think about how we're going to do that in the future. It looks like I'm going to be out of time here in 14 seconds. So I think that's all I have to say on that issue for now.
Okay. Cyndy Jacobsen, be specific about how you would raise revenues.
Yeah, we got enough revenue. That's just the bottom line. We have enough revenue coming in. We need to be wise about our spending. And as far as the millionaire's tax, we had a estate tax that we passed through, not the last legislative session, but the one before. And it brought Washington to the highest level of estate taxes in the nation. The 2026 session, we had to roll that back. And when I was in Finance Committee and I asked the author of the bill why we're rolling back this high estate tax that put us to the top of the nation, she said, after a couple of questions, she just said, yeah, people are leaving because of this tax. And so we had to roll back the estate tax, which brought us to the highest in the nation, because we thought people were leaving. That's exactly what's going to be happening with this income tax. It's not a wise idea. Massachusetts tried it. New York officials have admitted that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And we don't need to punish the very people who provide the jobs. We don't need Jeff Bezos from Amazon leaving for Florida. We don't need Zillow leaving and Expedia leaving. We need to be sensible about the economic climate here. And we've had a good run of it. We've had tech. We've had wealthy people who are able to be very generous. We've had a good run in Washington. We have increased our school spending. It's very high compared to nationwide spending. So we need to not
Thank you.
bite the hands that feeds us.
Thank you. Now let's, David Berg, your turn next.
So I do support the millionaire's tax. I do think that it was a great place to begin. I do wish that it had been tied more directly, maybe to some sales tax reductions right off the bat. But the general principle, I think, remains strong. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the kinds of things that we incentivize with our tax system and whether we're incentivizing the right things. If we are giving tax incentives to programs that aren't actually returning that investment to our state, we're giving away money. And I think that too often we've been incentivizing things that really aren't giving us back that return on that tax investment. So that's definitely something to look at and to study and make sure that if we're going to give an incentive to a corporation to create jobs, to do business here, that they actually follow through on that and they're actually delivering on what that tax incentive is designed to do. I do hear the argument that people are going to leave the state, that they're going to head someplace else. I'm not entirely sure where they think that is because we have income taxes across the nation, state income taxes in almost every state in the nation. So every time I hear that people are going to move where there's not a state income tax, I wonder exactly where that is and whether there are that many people interested in moving to South Dakota. It just doesn't seem to be quite the realistic threat that so many people have laid out to be. So I think that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Cyndy Jacobsen. Let's turn now to your priorities for budget cuts. What programs or expenses do you propose to cut to balance the budget? Cyndy Jacobsen.
Okay, so we need to just take a hard look at things. We need to stop paying for illegal immigrants to have health care on Medicaid. We need to stop paying for laser hair treatments for prisoners and transing prisoners. We need to stop doing that because we don't give laser hair treatments to regular people. We give them to prisoners. We just need to be more sensible about our budget. Maybe just take a look and hold the budget even. If we would just do that without raising any spending, if we would just hold our budget even, we would be able to roll in to the right amount of spending. And we have had, for the last two cycles, we've had a Republican alternative that didn't raise taxes and that did still fund our priorities and didn't raid all these pension funds and do all these nonsensical things. So it can be done. Chris Gildon, our budget lead for the Senate, proposed it 2 years ago, and last year Travis Couture had that budget that didn't raise taxes and continued to fund our priorities. And so I think we can do that. That's just things that we can do, like checking to see if Medicaid enrollment is happening in 2 states, or we're paying for 2 states, or just various things that we can do. They're out there. We can do them. We just need to hold the line because people are groaning.
Thank you. David Berg, what are your priorities for cuts?
So one of the things that I look at is whether we're spending money early on that heads off the need for remediation later on, or whether we're delaying and making short-term cuts that have long-term consequences. I see a lot of times in education that we choose not to make investments in early childhood education. So kids are entering with a disadvantage that we're then having to pay for years to do remediation and extra work to get them caught back up. So we have a choice to make. It's either we can spend the money now or we can spend more money later. And too often, I think what I've seen from state budgeting is that they make a short-term cut that ends up costing us significantly more on down the road. And that is absolutely something that I see affecting our schools on a regular basis, is that we get shorted on issues when kids are first entering our system and end up having to make up for that over and over again. We also need to do some real strategic pushback on the federal government and some of the threats that have come from the administration there that have targeted us as a blue state. And that has been, unfortunately, a reality of the situation that we have to work in right now, is that we have been a target for too long on a number of different issues. And the budget is reflecting that.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling, please. You're muted.
I think David actually hit the hammer on the nail with when he talked about federal government and how the federal government has targeted our state. I think that, we've inherited one of the most ridiculous budget experiences from the federal government that, like, solving these problems. It's good though, because I think that we're going to become more nimble. We're going to become better at managing our own state and our own financial outlook here by becoming a little bit stronger at those things. So not every opportunity, not every problem is a problem necessarily. What I don't think we need to be doing is doging the state and looking for keywords on computers and AI to make sure that jobs don't go away like our federal government did. I definitely stand against any policy that's going to harm and hurt working people in this district. So I think it's really important to look at what those processes are and not just pick straw man arguments to ensure that we're putting forth our best, whatever. I mean, I think it's really important that we actually look at where the government could be trimmed down a little bit and where we can make some efforts to and make sure that doesn't hit working people. That's it. It's pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is an audience question, and we will start with David Berg. AI usage and data centers are a controversial issue. Where do you stand on AI and data center regulation? David Berg.
So I think that there are a number of kind of different issues there. First is the practical issue that these data centers are imposing significant external costs on our communities. whether it's raising utility rates, whether it's increasing noise levels to the surrounding communities, increasing heat creating heat islands in the areas that surround these facilities. There are some real world consequences of just the physical presence of some of these buildings. And I think that that's another one of those cases where we've had people incentivized to create these facilities without thinking about what those external consequences are. On the actual AI technology itself, as a school director, that's absolutely something that I'm very concerned about because we've seen how it can be used effectively in some cases. We've also seen it be abused in many cases. We have to be very careful of the kinds of information that AI is trained on. If it's trained on bad information, you're going to get bad information coming out of it. We see that in a lot of stories where they point to some of the Grok AI answers that they've been trained on bad information, and as a result, bad information is coming out of it. So it's absolutely something that does need regulation. It needs close monitoring. We need to be very careful about the kinds of information that AI is being trained on because it's a garbage in, garbage out situation. So if we're going to be serious about making sure that AI is used and used effectively, it needs to be done with a very close eye. And it's not something that we can just charge blindly ahead on and assume that everything's going to get worked out because it hasn't been.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling.
Oh, good. I'm not muted. Yes. Yeah, I would agree with most of the things that David is saying. I do think that we can look to technology, and look to see if we could solve some of the environmental impact costs, problems through different systems of cooling those facilities. I do think the most important thing that we do if we decide to build them in communities that agree to build them, meaning they have consent to build, I think we need to make sure that labor is is a part of that conversation. I think we should make sure that those jobs go to labor unions, and that the technology to build those things or any type of form of automation should be coming up and not cutting the working class out of the conversation. On AI in particularly, though, I struggle with where some of the leadership currently in our legislative district has voted. They voted against the AI chatbot bill, which helped protect kids from dangerous AI that was talking children into committing suicide. They voted against banning the ban on microchipping workers, and I have real concerns with that. I think that is not okay. It's invasive, and it's part of the reason why I'm here today running for office, because I don't think that that's the right thing to do. So.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please. You're muted.
Yeah, getting there. So yeah, we vote on a lot of bills, and there was a bill in there about banning microchipping workers. And I want to say I voted no because nobody has come along and said, yeah, we want to microchip workers. So I think I was just like, do we need a regulation on this? Why is this bill coming forward? So I think that was the thinking there. We have a data center in the 25th district. It employs 200 people directly, good union jobs, and it's project labor agreements were used to even build. And they have a lot of ancillary jobs, which are also good union jobs. And I think that if there are externalities with the data centers, like energy usage or whatever, certainly they should pay their fair share of what they use, which I think they are doing. But we pulled the wool out from under them, and we were going to give them a tax break in some fashion. And I think we pulled it out at the last minute after they'd already been gearing up. So I think government has to be aware of not being capricious. And I think that we have a data center in Puyallup, lots of jobs, doing great, no complaints. If it is using more than its fair share or not being charged a fair amount for the electricity, let's take a look at that. We do need to look at the adequacy of our grid. That's a whole nother big problem. But yeah, let's go carefully in here and not jump in with the government.
Thank you. I just want to do a quick check-in with Chloe. Did another candidate join us? Because I see a phone number there with no name.
I believe so by phone.
Okay, could we have that person rename themselves and unmute their camera and phone to verify that? 302-235. I don't know who this number, it looks like. Well, since they're not unmuting, I'm assuming that that is not a candidate. Okay, moving on to the next question. Legislative District 25 has a higher percentage, 10.2%, of veterans in the population than Washington State or the US. What is your priority legislation for veterans? And we'll start with Jenn Marie Strickling on this question.
Yeah, I see some we have some real opportunities to provide healthcare or not healthcare, childcare to veteran families. You've got people that are deploying. They need help in this department. We are in a really a what do you call it? Like a what is the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a specific word. You know, a drought, right? A drought of childcare. We don't have the ability, we need to support families that are deploying. We need to support families. We need to have housing support for families that are veterans. One of the things, you see a lot of people that are, no longer that are living on a fixed income, living in different spaces, and a lot of those housing options are being taken away. It doesn't. People can live here forever as a veteran. They can retire here as a veteran. So I think that supporting things that help people, they're working folks that live here, and they deserve respect. And so I think that we need to offer dignity and respect to our veterans. Like I think that's really the most thing. And while they're deployed, definitely making sure that they have this access to childcare, because that's a huge issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please.
Yeah, just generally, of course, supportive of property tax relief for folks who are low income, veterans, et cetera. Always have supported that sort of thing. As far as childcare, we have childcare deserts where we don't zone for childcare, and we need to make sure that we're appropriately zoning so that you can have and regulating so that you can have more affordable childcare. So helping veterans in every way possible, in the same way that I would want to help everyone in the 25th district, making sure that we have public safety laws that are reasonable, making sure we hold criminals accountable, making sure that we help I sponsored some legislation that our prosecutors asked for this last time, making sure that we're providing a safe environment for everybody is going to help everybody. So a big thing that we can do to help everyone is make sure that we hold our care system for children accountable. When there's fentanyl in the home, we need to remove those kids. So the same things that are going to help everybody are going to also help our lovely veterans. So
Thank you. David Berg, please.
So as far as serving veterans themselves, I think the key thing that we can do is make sure that we have some solid programs that helping that transition from serving in the military to finding good paying careers here in the workforce in the 25th district. There are clearly some extremely valuable skills that are learned by our servicemen and women during their time in the service. But there's a difference between the way that works in some cases and the way that the private sector works. So making sure that we've got the appropriate training to bridge that difference, to make sure that there are great opportunities to connect those skills that have been learned in the military to skills that apply to their work in the private sector. I think that is a fantastic opportunity that serves both to benefit those veterans and will serve to benefit our community as a whole. The other area that specifically deals with the veterans and their veterans' families is that in many cases we see their students struggling as they've transitioned from one location to another because we haven't done a very good job of making sure that there can be a smooth transition process for the students. Again, as a school director, I've seen a number of students who came in having had fantastic experiences in another location, another state. Once they enter here, we don't recognize the work that they've done, the credits that they've earned, and reward them for that. So we need to make sure that we're being very careful about how students that are transitioning into new locations are treated as well. Veteran families included those students.
Thank you. Next question is an audience question. The Northwest Ice Processing Center is a private for-profit immigration detention facility located less than 9 miles from Puyallup. What are your views about state legislation to ensure the safety of immigrants detained there? Cyndy Jacobsen.
Well, of course, people should be safe. And of course, we should make sure that there are standards for all our prisons where folks are safe, or detention centers. That just seems like a no-brainer. That's it.
David Berg, please.
I think the resistance to allowing inspections of those facilities by the elected officials that are charged with ensuring the safety of their constituents, charged with serving the safety of those in our state, is absolutely shameful. That they're being blocked from being able to do their jobs cannot stand. We need to do better than that. If we're talking about a system of justice, justice isn't just for us, it is for everyone in the state. We need to make sure that people are allowed to do the jobs that they're tasked to do. If we're talking about safety, that means that inspections have to happen, and that we've continued to allow those to be blocked, that the courts haven't stepped in. We need to continue to press that. We need to press that hard to make sure that we are doing right by everyone here, that due process is in fact being served, that people are being protected, that there aren't abuses. We've seen documented in so many different places across the nation. We can't assume that we're immune to what's happening elsewhere. That's just sticking our head in the sand and pretending like we're not seeing anything.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling, please.
Am I okay? Good. My mute button disappears sometimes. Yeah, I 100% think that we need to be taking care of first of all, it's the harm that also comes for the people working and trying to give care to these people, these folks, the nurses that are down there in the ICE facility trying to do basic things, basic healthcare things, and they're being fought by the ICE facility itself, which is a privatized facility, which is ridiculous. I don't think that privatized prisons should exist. I don't think that there's any good from that. Also, people are being arrested without due process, right? Like you're talking about not people that are committing a crime, people that are being arrested for the color of their skin. That is a very different thing than somebody who's committing a crime, actively caught in the act or actively caught after the act. But we've talked about veterans. We've had veterans that have been detained in the ICE facility. It's a problem. It's a problem. The facility needs to go away. That's where I stand on the ICE facility and all of that. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. We'll start with David Berg. And what do you think is the most important environmental issue in the state, and what legislation would you propose or support to address it? David Berg.
So when it comes to environmental legislation, clearly we're a state that relies heavily on our natural resources. We rely heavily on our water resources in particular when we're looking at our electrical grid and the amount of hydroelectric power that we're delivering here. So that means that climate change is very real for us when we're looking at reduced snowpacks, when we're looking at extreme heat waves, those kinds of things. We can't continue to pretend like things are just going to work themselves out. So that's something that needs to have continued attention. When we're looking at our power grid in particular, we need to look at other options for providing power, expansion of solar opportunities, expansion of wind farms, the kinds of things that reduce our reliance on the old style gas types of electric generation. We need to be very careful about what we're doing to protect our environment because the consequences of not doing so we're seeing ramping up on a regular basis. We can't solve everything, but we can't pretend like we can do nothing. And for quite a while, we've just thrown our hands up and assumed that we can't do anything, and that just can't stand.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling, what do you think is the most important environmental issue in the state, and what legislation would you propose or support to address it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we in Pierce County, we do a lot of building without a lot of planning, and we do have a cause and effect issue with that. You see a lot of the warehouses that have come up. They bring in dirt, they infill that dirt, compact that dirt down, and now the water finds new places to go when there is flooding. And so we wonder why there's 100-year flood every 3 years, right? Like it's because we're not planning properly. The grid is being taxed because we're not planning properly. We're not using enough of our own organic brain to actually solve these real problems that we're facing. And I think that's really important. I think it's a reflection on previous leadership. I think that it's really important that we be really smart about how we move with the environment, how we protect the environment, and how we protect, because the environment it's something we coexist with. If we trash it, it becomes our hellscape, right? Like we need to make sure that we're taking care of our people, and we do that through taking care of the environment. So I think all across the board, we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please.
Thanks. So yeah, of course, we need to be good stewards. We got to keep a perspective on this, though. Our Washington's global climate emissions are 0.25% of the global emissions. We're not the bad guys here. We need to be good stewards. We need to have good forest management practices. A huge forest fire can emit as much carbon because trees store carbon as the whole transportation sector for the whole year. So we've got to have good forest management practices. We've got to have check on the adequacy of our grid. The Climate Commitment Act has been a failure. It hasn't reduced emissions in any way. And what it has done is raised gas prices for poor people trying to get to work. So I think we need to take another good look at that. And when I heard you say environment, I keep going back to the fact that we cannot get kids out of homes with fentanyl in them. And I'm thinking that's a pretty bad environment for those kids. So I think that's a big thing we've got to work on next year. We've got to just keep squawking until that becomes a rebuttable presumption of harm for those children in those homes. We've lost it's 200 kids dead or harmed seriously in the last from 2023 to 2026 because of fentanyl in homes under DCYF care. So that's an issue that comes to mind as well. Thanks.
Thank you. I see now that we have Nick Oloo in the webinar. Welcome. Sorry about whatever technical difficulties prevented you from being here, but would you like to go ahead and answer the question that was posed? What do you think is the most important environmental issue in the state, and what legislation would you propose or support to address it? Nick Oloo, you're muted.
Thank you. Absolutely. I would say the most important things as far as environmental is concerned is clean water. We need clean water in our homes because there are some homes that have water that has a lot of leads. We have homes that are complaining that they don't have clean water. Then we also have the management of waste cycle, which is also a problem in the state because when it comes to recycling programs and managing necessary waste and promoting disposable practices and all that, that is a problem in our state. And I would also say another important issue that I would probably emphasize on is the forest health, because of late we've had a lot of issues about wildfire, especially with the changing of the weather and all that. And this is something that, there's need for measures to be put in place so that wildfire is prevented. There is need for us to have good emergency preparedness for wildfire. And then we also need resources for first responders to protect those that are facing wildfires and all that, and also to protect our wildlife. And the other thing that I would
Thank
also
you.
talk about,
Thank
sorry,
you.
how much time do I have?
You just have 90 seconds. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to the next question, we'll start with Jenn Marie Strickling. What legislation would you propose or support to address homelessness? Jenn Marie Strickling.
Yeah, that's a great question. I served on the Family Promise Board, which definitely worked with housing families that are experiencing homelessness. I think it's really important that we don't means test per se before we get people into a place. It comes down to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When we take care of shelter, then we can start taking care of everything else. And so I think it's really important that we get people housed and that we build houses. Like, we need to be building places that people can actually afford to live in. If we build just McMansions and then expect our homeless problem to go away, then I don't know exactly how we're serving the middle class or the working class, or even the homeless folks that I guarantee you nobody chooses that life. That is not a life that people choose. And right now, um, my generation and the generation below me is experiencing an impossible situation with the way inflation has been going. So I think we've got a lot of things to solve. We got to build them first so that we can have them. And we really need to consider doing a lot more middle housing. I think we're missing the mark in this district by not building in upzoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please.
Yeah, I think housing is complicated. I think that we have inadvertently put in some incentivized even uh, folks to build housing that's not affordable. If you have a lot of high fixed costs, if you have a lot of regulations, it only makes sense that you're going to have to build a more expensive house to cover those costs. So I think we need to kind of get out of the business of all the regulations that we've got going on and allow the market to take over and build the affordable housing that's being demanded. Homelessness, I think we're making some mistakes. I think this housing first model is problematic, and I'm seeing it in my own life and in people I know. I'm seeing that if you have a housing first model, you don't help people at all. You just let them continue to live the way they're living, and that's not a kindness to them. So we've got to have housing models, and I think the one that we've got out in Lakewood is trying to hold people accountable and get them to the services that they need. And I like that model. So that's something that I can get behind and just get the government out of the way and allow the market to develop affordable housing.
Thank you. Nick Oloo, 90 seconds. What legislation would you propose to support or address homelessness?
I propose supportive housing, permanent supportive housing for homelessness, because this is a big problem, especially with those that are finding themselves out there. And a great example is those that are being faced by mental illness, for example, those that are falling out with the community, for example. And so there is need to put aside a budget or some kind of a funding so that there is rental assistance, because some of those areas, that's basically those are the causes of homelessness. People are unable to afford their rent, and then mental illness, before you realize that you found yourself homeless. And then I would also support emergency shelters for those that find themselves out there. We also need to, I would also emphasize on rent stabilization. Those are some of the areas that I would work on. Mm.
Thank you. Next, David Berg.
So I think one place to begin is absolutely that middle housing that Jenn had talked about, trying to make sure that there are some different kinds of housing options available for people to increase density of housing in many cases. If we've got a more concentrated density of housing, what that also means is that we can have more concentrated services to deliver to the people who are in those new environments, who need support, who need access to other resources. It's also a great place for businesses to then target populations, because there's going to be a concentrated audience there that they can reach out to serve as business owners. It also does wonders for our transportation system, and particularly if you're talking about people who are kind of on the edge right now as to what they can afford or not, forcing them to rely on automobiles for everything, that's not an answer either. So we need to make sure that there are additional transportation options. Transportation works best when you've got people concentrated in a narrower area. We don't do a very good job of that here. We've got incredible traffic issues trying to get from one end of this district to another during rush hour. It's not anything I would force on anyone. So we need to be very careful about what we're offering as housing solutions, and that we think about all the consequences of these solutions we put in place. Increasing density serves to provide us with a number of opportunities to solve a number of our issues all at once.
Thank you. Next question is an audience question, and we'll be starting with Cyndy Jacobsen. Many folks in Puyallup complain about noise pollution from post-manufacture mufflers. What legislation would you propose or support to address noise pollution, particularly from post-manufacture mufflers? Cyndy Jacobsen.
I don't know. I'm willing to meet with the person that has the question. And I wonder if there are local regulations around that. And I would be interested to find out more.
Oloo.
Yes, we do have noise pollution, and I would say we would address um, excessive traffic, and Puyallup is a problem when it comes to traffic. And then we have a lot of construction. I mean, there is taking place here and there. We have, like in five, we have a lot of industries that are coming up. Trucks are all over. Um, I would also push for vehicle to go for inspection so that they are able to, they would stop polluting the air. And I would also encourage road surfaces that are rough, for example. We have a lot of noise from the trains, for example. I mean, that's something that also we would need to tackle with the Department of Railway. Yeah, so I mean, every community deserves a peaceful neighborhood, and I would probably get information from the neighborhood and find out what are the areas would want me to do rather to tackle, and I just listen to them.
Thank you. David Berg.
When it comes to something as specific as the type of mufflers that are on an aftermarket muffler installation on a vehicle and the noise that they're making, it's really difficult for that to be something that is addressed that just targets that particular issue when we have some other rules that are already in place as to what's allowed, what's not. The other issue that I can see being an issue with anything that the legislature might pass on that. How many of you have driven behind a car that had expired tabs on it right now? We have a lot of issues right now with folks who are doing that, and it's not something that is being enforced. And if it's not being enforced for something that is easy to see like that, a loud car isn't loud all the time. Loud cars can be tuned in particular ways so that sometimes you're going to hear them, sometimes you're not. So if you are choosing not to be visible, then maybe you're not going to get caught. If we're not enforcing things as fundamental as tabs, I don't see us being real good at enforcing something like a noise violation like that either. Now, there are other kinds of noise violations that we have seen and have seen action on that's been addressed and we've done a better job of. We've had some issues with the fair and some of the noise that's created by the fair during fair season, and that does affect the neighbors there. But neighbors have worked with the fair, have come up with solutions, and those kinds of things can be addressed, but it needs to be a systematic approach. And something as specific as a car, I see that being real hard to enforce.
Jenn Strickling.
I mean, it kind of, to me, like, while it's uncomfortable to hear noise pollution, I think that that's awful. It feels a little bit kind of like big government. I hate saying that as a Democrat, but it really does feel like it's a nitpicky thing that maybe we don't need to be involved in. So I don't know. I think we can do better kinds of pollution policies if we went to stop pollution than that specific one. So sorry, I don't have a great answer for that, but maybe we can not I don't know. I'd rather solve our gas tax problem than that. Thanks.
Next question is an audience question. And what specifically are you going to do to bring more money to the 25th Legislative District? And what should that money be spent on? And we will start with Nick Oloo.
I would ease the formalities for all the bureaucracies for starting small scale businesses. A lot of people would want to make money, but they don't know how to start businesses. I would also put measures in place on how to pass information to those that are interested and that are skilled with various let me say knowledge here and there, because the more easy it is for you to start a business, the more easy it is for you to have money in your hands. And then I would also tackle inflation, because that's a big problem. We'd probably put policies that would reduce the price of basic needs so that money would come in people's pockets. And I would also tackle some of the areas that, some of those areas where people spend money on, like housing, for example, and then also make jobs available. I mean, for our young people, and find out what are the areas where people are looking for jobs more, and what are the reasons why people can't get jobs, because people need jobs. If there are no jobs, then they don't have money in their hands, and that affects the economy. So we need to create jobs. We need to let people be more entrepreneurial in whatever they're doing. We need to encourage those that are skilled.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. David Berg.
I think that we've been really good in the 25th district about building. We haven't been necessarily so good about building the infrastructure to support that building. So I think that's the key place to begin, is to make sure that we are investing wisely in the infrastructure that's needed to support the people that are here now that weren't here 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We built a lot of houses without necessarily building the schools to go with it. We built a lot of housing without necessarily building the roads to go with it, without the sidewalks. And that's a huge issue in a number of different parts of this community. Trying to make sure that we are maintaining the roads that we do have, so that they can stand up to the traffic that we're putting them through on a regular basis. In addition to all that, we can't build our way into a Southern California system where we just added another lane of traffic. That's not a realistic option. But transit and transportation, mass transportation options are another case of something that are truly an infrastructure investment. And it's the kind of thing that serves both the people who are taking advantage of those mass transit solutions and the people that then don't have those extra 40 cars on the road, because people are able to use a busing system, are able to use the light rail system, are able to use the sound rail system. So those are the kinds of things that we need to look at if we can build up the infrastructure to support the things that we've built, without an eye towards the infrastructure to support them.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling.
Yeah, I think this is on what we should build here, correct? Is that the question? Just a couple, can I just add a repeat of the question?
Sure. What specifically are you going to do to bring more money to the 25th, and what should that money be spent on?
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, we need to build infrastructure because that's jobs, period. Like when we build stuff, we can build our way out of a depression. We've done it in this country before. We can do it again, right? Like that's what we did after World War II. That's how we got out, and that's how we solved our problems. And look, the more people working in construction jobs, building the infrastructure that's so desperately needed, bridges, roads, schools, because we've lost a couple schools, right? Like those are all good, strong union jobs. And if we use the workers that we already have here in our zip code to perform that work, the union labor work, then we can actually have these people building out our local economy. They're the ones that are going to go to our grocery stores. They're going to shop at mom and pop stores for stuff. They're going to go to our restaurants. They're going to take their families out because it's a living wage job. We've been missing that. Every time we bring out a worker from somewhere else to come build something here, even if it is labor, it's like we can do better than what we've been doing. We certainly don't need to be selling are, buildings for $1 because in downtown Puyallup to a low road, contractor to build. Like, we can be doing better than that. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff to work on, but I think infrastructure and jobs and making sure that drives the right kind of stuff to our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen, please.
Yeah, a couple things. Money to the 25th. I think as far as our transportation budget and our infrastructure, we need to we have a constitutionally dedicated idea that the gas tax goes to the transportation budget. But as our transportation infrastructure is being supported by more and more things besides the gas tax, so we've got electric cars and stuff like that, we need to make sure that we have some dedicated sources of revenue to the transportation budget. So it's not always a fight for them to get that money that they need for that infrastructure in our budget. So it could be dedicating the sales tax on cars to the transportation budget. It could be quite a few things. So we need to do that. And I've heard this, true. I agree. We are building a lot and we need to make sure that the roads match so that people can drive around. Great economic policies, public safety, and schools bring money to the district. We need to look at the indirect things that we do too. If we have great economic policies, we're bringing jobs in. That's a good thing for the district. And then as far as bringing in capital money, as my job as a legislator, I have been very careful about what I've signed off on, very careful about what I've proposed, supported, done field as first responders there. Supported the little signal down there on the Foothills Trail to make sure people aren't getting run over on Pioneer. Supported things that made sense, like the Buddy Center in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's see, where are we at, right? I'm sorry. Last question is an audience question. And we will start with David Berg. And the question is, are you in favor of eliminating the 60-40 rule in school district bond elections? 60% approval, 40% turnout.
Absolutely. And to me, that's a real simple one. We have had a massive show of support for our school bonds, for our school levies, but the rules that have been put in place by the legislature have resulted in things that should have passed failing. When we are able to collect more than 60% of the vote repeatedly, that ought to be something that is celebrated. Instead, what we've found is that we've had more than 60% support for 2 consecutive bond elections, but it failed because we weren't able to validate based off of the turnout at a previous presidential election. Had it been based off the turnout at any other election than in a presidential year, we'd be building new schools right now for a district that is desperately in need of classroom space. But because of that 60-40 rule, we're not. And we're looking at a loss of money to the district because we were eligible for state matching funds when we ran those last bonds that we're not going to be eligible for the next time that those things are on the ballot. So it's not just the cost that's lost in the immediate term. There are longer term consequences for that 60-40 rule that's going to end up costing Puyallup taxpayers directly more money. So it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed. We need to do away both with that 60% super majority, and we need to address that 40% validation and tie it to a different and more realistic measure of turnout.
Thank you. Jenn Marie Strickling.
Yes, I agree with David 100%. It needs to be 50+1. Like we have a responsibility to invest in our kids. If we're not investing in our kids, and when the majority of people want to do it and we can't get it done, that's not, if I win this election, I'm not going to win because I had a percentage of something, right? It's going to be me +1. Like, it's going to be the vote +1, right? Like, that's how this works. So I don't see why we're making that different. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense to be fighting for a 60+1. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I agree with David. And also, we should be building these things. Once again, it creates more jobs and more investment in our local businesses when we have people making prevailing wages. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Cyndy Jacobsen.
Yeah, I vote to remove that 60% rule or that turnout rule. And the reason is because that's the biggest thing that people write to me about is their property taxes. People are saying we have to move because of our property taxes. So people are discouraged. And it's true. We have increased our K through 12 per pupil spending by 110%, not just doubled it, but 110% over the last decade. So we really are increasing our per pupil spending. And our mix has changed to be a little more admin and a little less in classroom. And that's troubling to me too. So I feel like the voters need to be on board. And I feel like that 60% is a good check and make sure that we have sufficient arguments for doing the expenditures that we get that 60%. And so no, I wouldn't vote for that. I would want to keep that check in place.
Thank you. Nick Oloo.
I would say our schools should clearly remain a place for excellence. They should remain a place for foundation for our students. The reason why we have a lot of crime for young people is because of the poor quality schools that we do have. And so schools should be a place where they develop their career, get prepared for college and technical education. It should be a place for financial literacy, digital skills, and critical thinking, communication, civic responsibility, and the list goes on and on and on. The idea of about 60-40 this and 40 that, I would really not really pursue it. But my base, as far as when it comes to schools, is are we meeting our objectives as far as safety neighborhoods is concerned, and the basic reason why we are sending kids to school? Are we meeting those basics? Technical education, financial literacy. When they graduate, are they able to get jobs? Are they able to be better people in our community? Are they able to pursue their goals? Are they be able to be responsible citizens in our community? And if there are people listening out to me there, these are the goals, because at the end of the day, we want our children to have a bright future. We want them to succeed in whatever they are doing. So putting so much things in schools that will probably be able to affect this would be my thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we come to the closing statements. Each candidate has up to 1 minute for their closing statements. We will change the order. So, well, we'll actually start with Jenn Marie Strickling, then Cyndy Jacobsen, then Nick Oloo, and then David Berg. So, Jenn Marie Strickling, your 1 minute closing statement, please.
Yeah, ultimately what we need to do is make sure that we're doing things for the working class. When working people are at the center of every decision that is being made in Olympia, then we all thrive here. Jeff Bezos and his family aren't coming to our local businesses to have dinner with us. They are not going to be doing that. They are going to be finding, yeah, sure, probably ways to hide their money in shell accounts and things like that. So yeah, we need to be smart about how we decide to legislate that, right? Like we need to think a little bit harder and work a little bit harder to capture the things that are missing for our community. I do think we need to be smart about how we legislate, how we do things for the working class, and I think making sure that we have jobs and focusing on the economy. Like if we're not focusing on the economy and we're not focusing on how to put dinner on the table for regular people, then I don't know what we're doing here. You know, like we've got to do better, and I think we can. I think it's possible. I just don't think that our previous leadership has really tried very hard. So I think it's time that we.
Thank you.
Am I over? I'm over. Sorry.
Yeah. Cyndy Jacobsen, please, your 1 minute statement.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I'm pretty straightforward. I think that families are groaning. I think that we're paying a lot of money, one of the highest in the nation on our gas tax, just under California and Hawaii. And that's part of the Climate Commitment Act also. I think we have a millionaire's tax, which is not going to be a millionaire's tax pretty soon because the thresholds are going to come down and it's going to be you and I. And we have one of the highest sales tax rates in the nation. And we have not managed our money wisely. And I think that we need to just get on that and have sensible government that people don't have to worry about, because working people are going to be helped when we do things for them that makes life more affordable. And I think that we need to get government out of their lives as much as possible and make sure that we have safe environments where people can thrive. And what a country. It's a great place to live. And I think that we just need to make sure we get out of the way in government. And that's kind of where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Oloo, 1 minute closing statement.
Strengthen the family. And some of the things that are much concerned for the family is the healthcare system, affordability of housing, for the working families, and affordability of the basic needs. And so, if I'm looking at the healthcare system, for example, it needs to be affordable for every family. I mean, we need to improve the access to universal healthcare. Every family should be able to go to the hospital, be able to get basic healthcare, and then, of course, moving on about it is affordable housing. Housing has become so expensive for the working families and seniors, and young people cannot afford it because they don't have that much money. And I would also say schools also needs to change. We need also to do a little bit of more what we are doing in schools. We need to prepare the children for success. We need to prepare them to be responsible citizens in our community. And then we'll talk about the local economy. Like I mentioned before, we need jobs. I believe with some of my colleagues on that. And then safe neighborhoods, the law and enforcement also needs to be supported as well.
Thank you.
And thank you.
you. Thank you very much. David Berg, 1 minute.
The first, thank you again for having this forum tonight. Clearly, there's a lot more that we could talk about than we're able to cover in an hour. There's a lot more that I could talk about that I'll be able to cover in the remaining 50 or so seconds that I have here tonight. But right now, let's be honest, politics in this area is broken. We have elected officials who are literally yelling at their constituents during public meetings. We've got elected officials who are slandering some members of the public during public meetings. They're ignoring them. They're walking out on them. We can do better than that. We ought to expect better than that, and I'll deliver better than that. One of the things that I've been known for is being a trusted voice. Somebody who can sit down. We're not always going to agree, but we're going to have an honest conversation. We're going to talk about the issues that matter to you. I'm going to learn from you. You're going to learn from me. In the end, we're going to end up with a better result than we would otherwise. We can do better than what we've seen come out of the 25th and Gallup recently. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to offer hope, and I'm looking forward to the future that we can have together.
Thank you. The candidates for Legislative District 25, positions 1 and 2, are in ballot order. Position 1, David Berg, Oloo, Michael Keaton. Position 2, Jenn Marie Strickling, Ren Fanoni, and Cyndy Jacobsen. Your ballot will be mailed July 14th, next Tuesday. Be sure to vote early and no later than August 4th. I'd like to thank the candidates who participated, the timekeeper, Terry Baker, and Tacoma-Pierce County League of Women Voters. You can see other League of Women Voter candidate forums at lwvtpc.org. Read your voters pamphlet, read the candidates' websites, and don't forget to vote before August 4th. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.